Are you someone that is always looking for a better way to express your thoughts and your feelings? Do you sometimes feel like you just don't have the words to convey what you're thinking? Well, stay tuned. Today, I will be going over the highlights of Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. Within this book, she shares with us countless ways to connect to our emotions, understand ourselves better, and have authentic connections with others. So stay tuned and we will dive right in. Hi, I'm Micah with Shine Bright Career Coaching. I'm here today to share with you on our YouTube channel more best practices for the job search, career development, and how to develop leadership skills in your career path. So if you like today's video, please subscribe to our channel. We again share content like this all the time and would love to see more of you. Have you recently been frustrated at work by a colleague or by not feeling like you could communicate what you really were thinking or feeling? This happens so often to all of us. And in the age of technology, Zooms and Slacks, communication has changed in so many different ways and shapes and forms. But the one thing that has not changed is the more clearly we can communicate what we are thinking, what our expectations are, the better our team, our boss, our spouses, and our partners can understand what we need in that moment. Today, I'm going to share with you highlights of Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. It's a tremendous resource and a wonderful book for anyone who wants to more deeply connect with themselves, more deeply communicate with the people in their lives, professionally or personally. And I find it to just be an amazing book to help enrich one's self-confidence. And why do you think that the self-confidence comes along with this great book of communication? Well, guess what? The more that you understand and can process how you are feeling and convey that and share that with others, the more confidently you can show up to meetings and to get-togethers, and you can connect to your colleagues, to your team members in an authentic and very transparent way, which forges deeper connection. And that's what we're all searching for. So stay tuned. I'm going to share with you the top takeaways from Atlas of the Heart, and then you can decide if you're going to dig in and read it later on your own. Within the first part of the book, Brene Brown shares with us the importance and the diversity of emotions and knowing what emotions we're feeling, being able to name them. And I know that this sounds very simple, but apparently it's incredibly hard for us today in our culture and fast society to really name more than 5 emotions. It sounds pretty shocking to me. What about you? So within the first half of the book, Brene Brown actually defines 87 emotions, and she digs into jealousy, admiration, schadenfreude, all of these different emotions that we know exist but don't come to mind, and we certainly don't understand their nuances when we're in a heated moment at work or with our spouse or having a difficult conversation with somebody on our team. Her point is the more that we can define, understand, and dig into our emotions, the more we will be connected to ourselves and thus be more likely to be able to connect to others. The stronger we have personal connection, the more able we are to communicate, the more able we are to show up with emotional intelligence, to be aware of who we are, and to be less judgmental about others. Research shows that the more that we understand ourselves, the less judgmental we are about others. Connecting, communicating effectively, and showing up with well-balanced emotional intelligence are some of the biggest keys to a successful, meaningful, and engaging career. These are things that I talk about with my clients all the time, which is why Shine Bright really focuses on getting into strengths and understanding personal strengths and people's unique makeup of talent and strengths. And this book, the first half of it, gives you a lot of different examples, some personal examples from Brene Brown's life, a lot of technical and research-based knowledge about the different emotions, the different nuances. Are we using them correctly? You will be so surprised and shocked to know how differently some emotions are actually showing up in the research versus what we think they are in our culture. So this part is a huge tool, and it's called Atlas of the Heart because it's showing us the way. It's guiding us in helping to understand what's going on in our hearts and actually translating that for our minds. So the biggest takeaway that I think is most important is those 87 emotions you're going to learn about. They're incredibly surprising, incredibly detailed, and again, all backed up with research that Brene Brown and her team has done that shows us how we are actually not only defining them, how we should be defining them, and how in our culture today we're showing up using these different emotions. The next huge takeaway I got from Atlas of the Heart is just how much our emotions and our experiences actually shape our day-to-day, how we feel and how we act. This might sound also quite obvious, but when we begin really investigating and begin to actually have the language to put to how we are feeling, how our emotions are showing up daily and regularly, we can start to also connect the experiences that we had in our life that are shaping the tone of how we feel in a meeting or how we are thinking about an event in our lives. This is something that pops up also all the time in my work with career coaching clients. I recently had a client who found herself exhausted and overwhelmed because she was carrying a lot of the team's workload in addition to her own. This probably sounds like a similar story to many of you. And guess what? It's not uncommon, but the reasons why there are certain people on the team who do more really are based on their experience and emotions in life. This particular client of mine actually had been the firstborn in her family. And so she had little siblings and parents who worked, and she did a lot for the family. And she did it really kind of intuitively. And it had been a big part of her life. So of course, when she got to her career and her job, she started to pick up the slack for others in the same way that she had as an older sister. So in our work together, her exhaustion, frustration at her team was really leading her to consider a different career path. And when we dug in and were able to actually see this habit and pattern of behavior that she was in control of, she was the one showing up and doing the work and caring for this one particular team member who wasn't carrying her load. Well, once my client figured that out, we traced it back to the emotion she was feeling, worried for the teammate who might be not showing up in a very favorable light for their boss, and with the experience of having been responsible for everyone as a child growing up. And with that knowledge, with that understanding, with the connection that she had made, she was actually able to forge some new skills around not taking on others' work, staying in her own lane, being aware of when her responsibility was in overdrive and was going to lead somewhere that would not serve her, which was exhaustion and overwhelm. This all is backed up by the data and also personal stories in Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. We are driven by emotion and experience in how we presently today show up. And again, with the language and diversity of understanding 87 emotions versus 5, we can dig deeper. And I hope that you will do some self-examination after reading this book and see what little hidden things are connecting for you and driving behavior from your experience and emotion. Where can you make tweaks to change habits and build new skills and maybe kick some of those frustrations out of your life? Another rather obvious aha moment from Atlas of the Heart was this idea that Brene Brown says we must belong fully to ourselves before we can belong to anyone else. Going back to that self-examination, that understanding what drives you, what makes you unique, and what experiences have shaped you. Paying attention and being able to really communicate that in a meeting or understand how you want to show up intentionally and not let maybe that childhood experience drive you. Paying attention, doing self-examination are all ways that you can start to belong to yourself. And again, belonging to yourself means to be aware of what's driving you, what's making you show up the way that you do. And do you like it? And would you like to forge new habits that create new behaviors or new habits that serve you better today? Once we begin the work on that, Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart tells us and shows us through research and personal story that she shares that once we cultivate that deep understanding of self, we can truly belong to someone else, which means walk with them and partner with them and actually show up fully ourselves to partner with them fully themselves and have this deep connection. So what does it all mean? Well, digging into this book, you will realize that the biggest takeaway is just getting to know yourself. Reading books that help you to have new tools, new language, new understanding, to build a deeper connection with yourself, to understand what drives our behavior, to carve out time in your life professionally and personally to investigate and see where you want to change, where you want to grow, what you're feeling, and how you can communicate that. These are the tools that help us build self-confidence, emotional intelligence, as I mentioned before, and most importantly, authenticity. You know, it's hard being out there in the world, right? And there's so many different things going on, work, personal life, kids, and everything else. But if we just keep walking numbly through our world, expressing only 5 emotions, having a hard time connecting to ourselves, we're going to miss out on a lot of connection with other people and live a rather numb experience. So I encourage you to read Atlas of the Heart. It's so inspiring and so full of knowledge that you will find helpful and can also use in your future. Take care. Thanks so much for watching this video, and please subscribe to our channel.